How is it to grow up with having no identity and no clue of who you might be or who you'd want to become? I think many people nowadays struggle with finding themselves in this world because you could technically be anyone. But I think there's also a lot of external influence which can make it a lot harder to truly get to know yourself. I think it will become more common for people not being able to find themselves, but still not many will be open about it because how could you not know yourself? But there are many people who go through this type of identity crisis. For example, because of being labeled of being someone when they themselves didn't yet get to decide on who they were, and they were forced into some identity that wasn't theirs. Hello everyone, Raise Up, and today I want to talk a bit about not knowing your identity, having no idea of who you might be. I know it might sound weird because how do you not know who you are? You like some things, you do some things, you're just yourself. But it isn't always that simple. When I was a kid, I was the so called smart kid. I was good in school, and that became my whole identity. I was taught to be good at school, pushed to take extra lessons to improve even more, but didn't do much besides that. But this label never really felt like it was actually mine. Because, yes, maybe I was smart, but what else came out of it? I was just smart, and that's where my whole personality ended. Even though I felt like there was more depth to it. So, I didn't have much friends. I didn't do much besides learning, and then, as I left primary school and went to high school, it turned out I'm not the smart kid anymore. I'm not the best, I don't know much, and so I struggled. I struggled a lot with it, and also I didn't have anything else to do, so I was lost. Because I was meant to be the smart one, but I wasn't. And I couldn't do anything else because I was meant to be so focused on school that I ended up having nothing else now. So I didn't have many passions. All the things I did besides school was sometimes playing on my Xbox, and that would be my whole life. And for a kid, it was comfortable just going to school, being one of the best, then coming back from school, learning a bit, and playing a bit on the Xbox. And that was my whole life. But it didn't lead me anywhere. And as I said, later it turned out that I wasn't so smart as I was meant to be. And now, after a couple of years, I can tell that I probably had some advantages. It was just me in a new environment, experiencing new things, new subjects, different learning, and everything. But still, when school ends, what do I have? Once again, nothing. Because I never had myself to begin with. I didn't have many opportunities to explore, to try, to make mistakes. I only did what I was told to do because I simply couldn't do anything else. And here I am now, struggling for the last couple of years because this identity crisis of mine didn't start in high school. It actually started near the end of primary school. That is when I started to wonder, but what do I do later? Who do I become? And because my entire identity came from school, and not even from myself, but mostly from my parents and people around me, I didn't really get the chance to learn who I am. And now my struggles come from not knowing what interests me, what feels like mine, or what feels fulfilling. Nothing sticks, everything just feels like a time filler. I tried a lot of things, but doing everything is basically doing nothing because if you're trying to be everyone, you end up being no one. And it's similar when you try to fit into different groups. You pick up pieces of people to blend in, but none of those pieces are yours. You want to be accepted, so you become similar to the people you want to connect with, but you can't be them because you haven't experienced and lived their life, so you end up being no one. You're not yourself, you're not them, just something in between, and because of that, everything starts to feel distant. Your emotions, your thoughts, your sense of self, all of it becomes unclear, so you don't know how it feels to be yourself because you never experienced it. And then one day you'll think you've finally found something that feels like yours. And I think most of the times you will be wrong because it's hard to find yourself on the first try. So you get this tunnel vision and convince yourself that this thing is your new identity because it's easier to feel something than not to feel anything. But when that identity turns out to be false, everything collapses. Your view of the world breaks, your assumptions break, all the little ties holding the illusion together disband. And when that one thing is proven wrong, suddenly everything feels wrong. So you start rejecting everything as a protest because nothing feels true anymore. You ask yourself, what the is even going on? And if you were wrong about this, how can anything else be right? How can your identity be real and you feel like you don't know anything anymore? And then the worst part kicks in. If you're the smart kid, the one who was supposed to know everything, then how the are you standing here not knowing who you are? And that's a problem. Just because of being labeled the smart kid, you end up struggling. And this doesn't just happen to smart kids, it can happen to anyone who gets falsely agreed upon to be someone that they are not. And it's because how can other people know who you are if you didn't even get the chance to decide yet? So then comes the big question. If everything's so how do you find yourself? And I don't really have an answer because I'm still looking for myself. I have ideas about who I might be or who I would want to be, but is there a way to confirm it in a couple of months? I don't really think so. So all I can do is try. Actually try, not try something for a few weeks and quit because it doesn't feel like me. Because the truth is, I don't know yet what it is to feel like myself. So right now I'm doing this YouTube thing and I hope it's something that finally feels like mine. Something that helps me find myself. And I think it's kind of helpful that I got to learn that I like talking and thinking and explaining and discussing problems, but also I'm interested in like psychology and philosophy. But still, even when knowing those things, I'm not 100% sure if this is the thing. if that's what I want to do and that's who I want to become. And that uncertainty makes me question everything again. I start arguing against myself, sabotaging myself, and that's a trap. You're trying to find yourself, but you keep doubting yourself because you've never known what being yourself feels like. And it's hard, it will take time, but what else can you do? You can't live your whole life not knowing who you are. You can't keep pretending, switching environments, copying people, and calling it a life. So I know it's hard not knowing yourself, but there's no other way to find your identity than trying over and over without giving up. Just experimenting, learning, failing on repeat. So I don't know what else to tell you or tell myself. Just keep going. Keep trying because you can do it. Everyone can if they don't give up. You just have to try to find yourself. And that's probably what I will keep doing. Even though I felt like I felt like absolute lately. But here I am trying to find something because if I hadn't gotten out of bed, I would still be lying there feeling the same way. And now I'm at least trying. And maybe I'm on the way to find myself, but only time will tell if I was right. So, I think that would be it for today. So, if you're struggling like me, I wish you the best of luck in finding yourself and peace.